What are your kind of early memories of this rivalry, and then when you were part of Todd Graham's staff, like participating in it?
Yeah, I mean, my real memories were just like it was the thing to do. Like it was the talk of the town. It was, every sports bar, every game it was all over the place. That's what you did. I mean, my nephew was actually born, on this game. His birthday was this game. My nephew, my sister's son. So it's just kind of like this game is very close to our family, the people in the state, people who went here, and I feel like the earliest memories is just like this is it. Everything shuts down. Like I just remember that from that perspective. What was the second half of the question?
Yeah, just participating in it as a.
Oh yeah, as an assistant, it's competitive. It comes down to the will power to win. In rivalry games, it doesn't matter what records are. It's essentially, I told our guys, there's 2 seasons when you play at ASU. There's the first 11 games, and that's one season. And then there's the Team Down South week, and that's an entirely another season. And you only play 11 regular season games, and then you play one other entire season, and it takes 7 days to play it.
And then when you took this job, what did people say to you about it, or what have fans or boosters or people said since that has stood out to you about it?
That this is the game, obviously, that this is like, all they care is you beat them, which we all know that's not true, right? But we also do know that is the level of importance of this game to the Valley, to the history of the game. I mean, I could get into the history of why this game is competitive before when we were a teaching school and the vote and all that stuff. And, we showed a video to our players to kind of explain and teach them a little bit about the rivalry and the history. And it's the oldest trophy amongst all the collegiate trophies. So, everybody has said since I got here, this is the game. But it's something that I knew. And unless you've been in it, unless you've been a part of it, or unless you're from here and know it, you don't understand how intense the rivalry really is.
When did you show that video, and what was the reaction? Do you think that most of the players didn't know? A lot of them are just new to ASU.
Yeah, I think it was educational for them to understand the deep history of the rivalry. And I showed it this morning. We have meetings to kind of go through the last game and then to, move forward. And like I said, usually last games of the year you don't really talk about. And I said, this is a whole new season. So we're getting straight to, we're going to clean up things we got to fix, fundamentally. But, this is it right here.
Kind of fed into my question that you do have a lot of new players. So besides like watching the video, the film, whatever, how do you get across to them how important this really is? Because a lot of these guys aren't even from in town. They don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intensity level of everything just has to increase. I mean, your intensity level should always be high, but you should be able to, show an even heightened intensity in different ways, shapes, or forms. So we're going to continue to educate, and kids are smart. Kids know when you're fake. Kids know when you're real. Kids know when you're saying something and it means something. Kids know when you're saying something just because you're supposed to say it. So the kids and the players are going to be able to feed off of real energy and real passion and real competitiveness, and they're going to feel it. And I think, how do you educate them on it? You've got to show them that it matters. And how do you show them that it matters? It matters to me. So they're naturally going to get and feel that vibe, I would say, from myself.
Can you lean on some of the returning players that have been through a lot of them, like maybe a Jordan Clark? They've been through a lot of these games.
100%. I mean, when they were going to sit down in the meeting today, I was playing the highlight video from the team down south after they won the game last year. That's what was playing in the meeting room on loud, cinematic recap, right? And just to show these guys, that we have to come and we have to prepare at a high level to get ready to compete and get the cup back.
Coach, with how good Arizona's been this last 5 weeks, they've completely turned their season around. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the Pac-12 right now. What have they done in the last 5 weeks to just completely turn that season around? What have you seen from them?
Their quarterback is playing at a high level. They have a wide receiver who's 2 wide receivers, but that are first round, top 2 to 3 round draft picks. And they've done their offensive line is big, defensive line big, a lot of transfers in their defensive line, that they're stout up front. They stop the run, and they're very simple. They don't bust. I mean, there's not many, I shouldn't say flaws, but not many just wide open people on the tape because they're simple defensively, and I think some of the best, there's two ways to play defense. You can either be really aggressive in attack, and you can be really simple, and they're aggressive in attack with their front defense coordinator being a defensive line guy by the core, but they're super simple with their back end to prevent the big plays. So they have a little bit of a balance of creating negatives and creating explosives on defense through being a multiple front, but they're simple enough on defense to cover that multiple front up with not having explosive plays in the back end.
Hi, Kenny Rubino, Devil's Digest. You're familiar with the whole mental aspect over here as far as going into the Arizona game and, being hyped up and all that, but also not committing, those careless penalties on game day. Now as a head coach, what approaches have you took maybe from previous staffs to really address that specific aspect? Yeah,
I told the guys today we got to play with a passion, an intensity, a fire in our belly to go out there to win the football game, but you also have to play with a poise and composure. And I said one thing that we've struggled with this year is when things haven't gone our way early. On the defensive side of the ball, in that category particularly, is we either play really, really, really good defense or really, really, really bad defense. And it's not that our defense just all of a sudden becomes bad. It's we can't bounce back when we get punched in the face right now. And that was what I challenged our guys with, is we've got to be able to take a punch, right, and keep our composure and keep our eyes where they're supposed to be. Keep running to the football. Keep communicating. And you can't say, oh, so we gave up something. I just have to play so passionately with so much intensity that I'm just going to make every play. That doesn't solve the problem. That hurts the problem. You have to take a deep breath. You have to go do your job, and you have to do it full speed. Right, but you still have to do your job. And I think that was the emphasis I made from, why we've struggled in two of the games versus really good football teams is it wasn't just we played poorly. It was we just lost the focus when we got on our heels. And we've got to learn how to rebalance ourselves and be a team that can, somebody scores on us and we respond. Then offensively, same thing. We've had more adversity from a negative standpoint on offense this year. So our guys have actually, in my opinion, they're responding better to those scenarios. And I think the last few weeks we've been playing better on offense, even though we didn't score last week in the first half. We drove down the field on a really good defense twice and could have scored. So I think they're growing in that category. I think our defense needs to learn how to respond better in game to those scenarios. And we're going to face that a lot this week because the emotion of the game.
Coach, you grew up obviously around this rivalry. Is there a game or two from the past when you first saw this game that you thought that, this was a rivalry to be a part of, and any one that sticks out in your mind?
There's a bunch. To single out one isn't necessarily fair. I remember my first time obviously playing in it. I remember, watching it when I knew I was coming here as a coach, and they were running the double arc cage grab routes from double tight off the zone and throwing the double arc to, Mario Nelson, back when that was really popular with two tight end zone read and arc throws. I remember when, there's a lot of good memories from just me professionally and coaching and being around it, and then personally being around it. So obviously I've watched this game. If I haven't been able to watch it live, I've recorded it to make sure I watch it every single year. This game means a lot to everybody in the Valley, everybody associated with Arizona, the state as a whole. This game is, like I said, its own season.
Hey, Coach, Blake Neiman, Cronkite Sports. In 2014, Arizona State and Arizona played for the Pac-12 South title. In that Territorial Cup game, you were part of that staff. Is there any memories or reflections you can date back to that game and any lessons you took away from it?
It's a rivalry game. Rivalry games are, we already kind of mentioned it, they're about keeping your composure through play, because you're going to play with a passion. Like anybody I told her, if you don't come out there and are ready to practice this week more than other weeks, oh man, I'm sorry for you, right? Something's wrong. And so there's not going to be there's not going to be a rah-rah speech. There's not going to need to be me getting up there and try to motivate. This is going to be us keeping our focus, us being fresh and ready to play a football game in week 12 with all of our guys, a lot of our guys being banged up. It's about being fresh in this football game. It's about going to execute at a high level and play with a passion.
Hey, Coach, Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ. It's also Senior Day. So what about this particular senior group has been so crucial to this team in year zero for you?
Yeah, it's the foundation. I mean, when people look back on this team in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, these guys are going to be able to come back, and they're hopefully going to be able to see me still here. They're going to be able to come and talk to our guys and say, man, you don't understand what it took to get us to this point. You don't understand that, we were the people who had to dig the ditches, and we were the people who had to lay the cement, do all the work that nobody likes to do. We were the people who had to convince the freshmen to clean the locker room and tell people to show up early even when we were losing games and we went on a 4-game losing streak. We were the people having to convince people to still show up early and to be on time. They were the people that have to do all of the hard stuff to establish the culture. And I don't think people ever give those groups of people enough credit, because it's an entertainment business, so people just want to see the actual result of a group of people, but they don't see what goes in to getting that result 2 to 3 years down the road. And I'll remember this group as a group of people that laid the foundation for the success of this program to reach heights it's never reached.
And do you anticipate any players with remaining eligibility partaking in Senior Day?
Not eligibility is interesting right now because you have to file waivers for some guys. Like, some guys haven't filed COVID waivers, some guys have. So you technically have existing eligibility unless you file a waiver. So to answer your question, guys that could come back, I think that you're asking, are they going to participate? I would anticipate most guys that we would have to file a waiver for to come back will probably participate. And then if we choose to file a waiver for them to bring them back, then they would still come back. But I don't want somebody I don't want to even cross that bridge yet with the team. So if there's guys that are going to, participate in it and then happen to come back, they happen to come back.
Kenny, you sort of touched on this earlier, but you've moved the ball at times pretty well in recent games until you get on the verge of scoring territory. Is there anything that you're seeing that's maybe a theme in that, or is it just a bunch of variables?
Well, the tighter you get, the less space there is. Tighter you get, the more man you get. Tighter you get, the more one-on-one scenarios you create for yourself, because you can't, maybe manipulate zone defenses in a way that you could, because the space is reduced. You can't get as many +1 run fits because the team is playing more 0. So everything gets tighter, and tighter, which creates one-on-ones higher. They're more important, and right now we just haven't been able to. A few games we've had one-on-one opportunities, and we haven't quite come down with it a few times in some games. So, and then obviously last week, horrible call by me, putting SCAT in a position to do that. Shouldn't have ever put him in a position to do that. So 100% my fault on that interception at the end of the half. And then we've missed a few field goals, but I'll take that as well. We saved a red shirt year for a kid, and so we forced Dario to kick and punt in 2 games, and those are the games that he's really missed his field goals, is when he's had to go both punting and kicking throughout the game, and that's something you never want to do with a punter or a kicker, is make him also punt, and we've kind of had to do that in a few games, so he won't have to do that this week, which will be nice. So I think it's a combination of us. We've missed a few easy kicks combined with us, myself, maybe getting not too cute, but too creative, and not just letting our guys see if we can go win.
Hey, Coach. Nick Borgia, Devil's Digest. All season long, you've emphasized the importance of winning the moments and the specific moments when the game is close. Do those moments in a game like this game carry any extra weight, or is it all kind of the same regardless of who's lined up on the other side of the ball?
I mean, when you get in the game, it's emotional, but the actual winning the game is the same. Like the winning the game, you got to win fourth downs. You got to win third downs. You got to score when you get inside the red zone. All those things stay the same. So I don't want to say less important because I think this game as a whole, everything is more important. When you actually talk about like what it takes to win, I think those are the same. You know, what it takes to win is what it takes to win. And, you know, if you look at the games that we've won, it's really easy. Look at fourth down conversions. You know, we lose at Washington, right, on a 4th and 3, right? Well, we win at UCLA on a 4th and 3. I mean, so damned if you do, damned if you don't. But you win or lose games based off the moments. They converted a 3rd and 15 to start last week and then converted 3 fourth downs in the first half, right? We missed a field goal in the first drive and didn't score at the end of the second quarter in the low red zone. So when you really look at games, even last week, you flip 4 of those defensive plays in the first half, right? Well, that's 3 times you would have stopped them. You have us score those 2 times, and it's a 1-possession game going into the second half, even though we were down 35. You flip 5 plays in a football game, 5 moments, and games change. And that's why football is so fun, is because you're never as far as it looks from really turning a corner. And that's what makes it fun when you turn it, because people are like, whoa, what happened? Well, we just played like 4 plays better. And, you know, everybody thinks like the world just changed. No, that's just part of it.
I know, Kenny, this is a time of year where you can have an absolute information overload, and it goes obviously for both opponents to look at film from 11 games. How hard or how easy is it to really focus on what really matters, the trends that you truly see from each and every game, versus really, trying to be so aware of like a nuance here, an anecdote here, just when you're watching so much film?
Yeah, you got to understand your opponent. Is he a copycat guy? Is he a guy who just copycats formation, copycats plays from other people, which a lot of people have success with in college football? Is he a guy that runs what he runs from different formations? Are they a guy that does both? Are they a guy that just does what they do? We're going to line up in 2-by-1. We're going to run inside zone and counter and throw RPO, slant routes to the boundary. There's really not much you can do to defend. I mean, it is what it is. You get your hat, we throw the ball. You don't get your hat, we hand the ball, and we hope we block you next play. So there's a bunch of different ways. So you have to be able to figure out what the identity of the guy is, calling it on both sides of the ball. And when you figure out the identity of the guy calling it, then you say, okay, is this a copycat guy? If this is a copycat guy, then you better drink some coffee, because you're going to be up here having to watch everything that they have done to what your plan is verse, offensively and defensively, because copycat guys go into the archives, just like we're a copycat team. Everybody knows it, so I can say it, right? So you better go into the archives and figure out, what has anybody ever done to me that was good? Because if there's a structural reason behind it other than just your guy busted, right, that doesn't count in my mind, then, there's a chance you see it. So I think you've got to really find, who is this guy? What kind of caller is he? What kind of system do they run? And that more dictates how big of a rabbit hole you go down, is based off of the type of defense or offense or play caller that you're playing.
Coach, Arizona's quarterback, Noah Fafita, redshirted last year and now has won Pac-12 Freshman of the Week 4 times this year. How would you say the importance of a redshirt year is to a quarterback's development? Yeah,
I mean, coming into college football and trying to play at a super high level as a true freshman is very, 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 very difficult. Just the speed of the game, to learning the system and the changing and the having to know protections, for most collegiate systems, or, half of them, having to know the protections, all that goes into it, the pressure from the media and what you read about. You try to get your guys to not worry about it, but the reality is they read everything, right? So all of it just compounds. So I do think a redshirt year is huge for freshmen to come in and learn and get their balance about everything, live away from home. There's so much to it. And he's done a phenomenal job for them. He obviously played high school, with a really good wideout that's on their roster, and he throws it to him a lot, and that's a positive for them.
Hey, Coach. Noah Furtado, son of a source. With Noah starting the season as the second-string quarterback, curious, how have you seen that offense evolve with him taking the field and sort of taking the reins?
More consistent, and he doesn't take sacks. He's hard to sack. So when you're hard to sack, sounds like such a fundamental thing. You can throw the ball deep more because you're not going to take sacks. When you're easier to sack at quarterback, right, you can't take shots more because if you complete a shot at a 40% rate, you're really, really good. If you call 2 shots, right, or 10 shots in a game and you complete 4 of them, right, and you complete those for 35 yards apiece, you're going to keep calling the shots unless 3 to 4 of those shots are sacks. So when you don't get sacked like he's not getting sacked, when you move around and prevent those negatives like he's doing, it allows you to call the game so aggressively and without fear that you're going to have more explosive plays offensively. Those explosive plays and those shots are going to open up the run game. So I think what he's doing right now at such a high level is he's not turning the ball over and he's not taking sacks. And those little 2 things that seem like they're just small pieces of his puzzle, that's what's allowing him to run the ball. That's what allowing him to take shots. And if you can run the ball, if you can take shots, that's what allows you to throw the ball quickly to wideouts on wide receiver screens. So right now they have great balance. I believe it all starts with the ability to run the ball and play action shot. And his ability to make people miss and not take sacks allows him to take more play action shots.
Obviously, we've seen SCAT literally do everything. Is there a point with him, though, where you ask him to do too much? Maybe his performance in one facet maybe isn't as good because you are asking so much of him?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. You know, we've got to, hopefully, you know, we're going to get to Carlos back this week. So that's going to help us from that perspective of him not having to do as much, which is huge because some of our best football games that we've played on offense have been with DeCarlos back there and having that balance and being able to give SCAT a little break. So I definitely agree with that.
Hey, Kenny, Jake Seymour, Thunderbolt Source. When it comes to responding to the punches being thrown, you mentioned that was a kind of an issue at Florida State when he was there. So what do you feel like kind of helped them get over that hump, and what do you feel like can be applied for ASU this season for that?
Yeah, I think eventually it just happens. Like, eventually guys just realize in their own head that maybe that, all right, it's not an energy thing. We're still playing hard, or we're still playing with passion, or it's this. And it's a focus thing. So just continuing to hammer that. The biggest moments are won by the people who can play with a passion, but still play with the mental presence of the detail and still say, no, it is 4th and 1. The back is on my side. Zone opposite is coming. I have a field pressure call to the back. Scrape tight as possible. Right? And if I'm the guy who plays the quarterback, I better come down. The quarterback's going to pull it. We know what they do on 3rd and short. That's not what Arizona does. It's just an example of being able to take all of that emotion and say, okay, this is what they do on 3rd and short. Boom, coach called this. Got it. Stay tight, stay tight, stay tight. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Play the quarterback, play the quarterback. Being able to say that in your mind while playing with that passion is difficult. Most people can do one or the other, but it's hard to do them both. And you usually lean on what you're good at. So if you play with passion and passion and passion, right, in those moments you get really passionate. All of a sudden somebody's wide open in the corner because they run play action on 4th and 1. So I would say that's the challenge, is really refocusing yourself in those moments of adversity to focus on the detail, the prep, and the plan. And then you still have to play with that same passion that you would have.
Yeah, sort of building off that, how closely are you following Florida State this year and what Mike's doing, and then Jordan Travis, kind of what happened to him? I know that you guys have a good relationship.
Yeah, that was super unfortunate. I found out after the game. You know, I actually called his dad before I got in this press conference after the game to check in and see how he was doing. And I'm not going to get too much into the scenario, but he's in good spirits. FaceTimed him yesterday. Talked to the dad about 3 to 4 times on the phone since it happened. So, you know, he's in great spirits. I mean, that's an unbelievable kid who's battled through so much. And to have that happen is just, it's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, heartbreaking, but I'll say this, anybody who's been around him knows he's an incredible leader, and his presence will still be felt around that program. Even with him not on the field, his presence will be felt, and he's still going to make an impact for that football team.
I know that you believed it possible, but what's it like seeing Florida State in contention for a national championship?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's cool because, I actually got to see like 7 of the kids were on FaceTime the other night when I was, talking to Jordan, and they were in the room with them, and I'm like, how are you still there? Like you're like 32. Like how are? And it's so cool to see that group of people who laid the foundation, who were there to lay the foundation, now get to live in the house that was built. And that doesn't always happen. Most times in college football, you go somewhere and you either go to a nice house and you move in, or you go to a bad house and you live in the bad house. Very few times you get to go to no house and build it like from scratch, essentially. Very few times you get that opportunity. And when you get those rare opportunities in college football, even most coaching changes, they're not like that. It's usually just, you haven't achieved as much success as other people would like. It's not building a new house. And when you get to build it from scratch, essentially, the reward is so much greater because there was, what you started with, your players know where it started, and then they get to be there for the ending of it. It's a really cool feeling to just watch those guys and see their joy and excitement, because I've seen the other side of those faces, and I saw them battle and walk in, and Coach Norvell would say the same thing, good morning, every single day. That's what he said to everybody. Same exact thing. People were like, this dude's crazy. But he was the same person every single day. There was no wavering. It didn't matter if we lost to Wake Forest by 35 points. At home or whatever that was. It was good morning, back to work, and process continues. And now you look at him, and it's just testament to that if you do things over and over again the right way, and if you believe in your vision and that this is the right way to do it, eventually you'll reap what you sow.
Coach, you said on after the game on Saturday that you try to leave places you've been better than you found it. What do you think are some of those things that you made those little impacts along the way to help leave those places better?
I just think pouring into people and making them know that, you're important and the joy to play the game, and just sharing the knowledge that I believe I have and can help, with quarterbacks and teaching them things in a way to look at the game that may be a little bit unique. I just think college athletics is coaches move around so much. I mean, I was one of them, so I'm not above it, right? I was one of them, hopefully not anymore. But it is, everybody wants to, help themselves. That's human nature. And leaving places, you go to a place, you help them, you recruit, and then you leave, and then a lot of people take the players when they leave, and, they wish poor will on the place that they just left because they want people to think that they were the greatest thing on the planet. And the only reason that they won is because of them. And I just couldn't have a more opposite belief. I believe if somebody gives you the opportunity to do something, you should go there, do your best job possible, and if you get another opportunity because of them, you should try to leave that place better than you found it. And if you don't leave places better than you found it, then did you actually do a good job? And the answer is no. If you can't leave a place and say, man, they're better now without me, that's actually a sign of leadership, right? Leaders build leaders. And when a good leader or somebody leaves, there should be somebody that can step up to lead because you trained them to lead correctly. And I just believe that you leave places better than you found them, and that's the testament of somebody who tries to do it the right way. And I'm not saying I have, I'm just saying that's what I try to do.
Obviously, Arizona in Jed's first year was 1-11 with a loss to NAU. Obviously, with what they've done this year, it's kind of evident you can turn the corner pretty prominently in the span of a couple of years. I know you're not going to say you're looking at the future, but can you guys look at that, and do you think your players can look at that and draw some positivity out of that, hey, we're not that far away, we can do this in a short amount of time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think our players believe right now we can win a bunch of football games, and we can. I mean, we've showed it. I mean, we just beat a team who went out the next week and played a good football team and I don't know how much they beat them by, but played really good football in UCLA. 2 weeks ago, we went on the road and beat them. I mean, we just played a team at Washington State who just beat a team by 30-something points. So we can play really good football, right? The challenge is when things don't go our way early, we've got to respond better. And that's really what because we're gotten to a point we know how to win when things are going well. You know, when we don't get that, down by 14, right? Or get that moment. We don't know how to respond in the moment yet. We can respond on Sunday. We can respond on Monday. We can regather ourselves and go back and compete and understand that we can win any football game that we play. But at the same token, we've got to learn how to respond in game better. So I believe that we can go out and win. I don't care who you put on our schedule. We're going to go into that game believing we can win the football game. And if you win 5 to 7 moments in the game, any team can beat any team on any given night. I don't care the talent discrepancy. I don't care if you're playing the New York Giants, right? You win 9 different plays in the game, right? 9 times 7, right? 64. You all know that trick? Boom, 64, right? So it's pretty clean.
So Kenny,
63, my fault. That was bad math right there. Holy cow. Nobody even called me out on that? I mean, come on. Not one person caught that. God.
So Kenny, a week ago today, you challenged the ASU fan base to get more involved in the NL collective efforts, and the reports since then have been very positive. I think they doubled their monthly membership, maybe even tripled it at this point. How pleased are you with that initial reaction, and how much more work is done when this crucial month of December? Yeah,
huge growth just in the valley, in the community in the last, week. Unbelievable growth. You just said it. I think 300-400 people. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't get told. I'm not really allowed to be told that type of stuff. But I just hear that it's been absolutely head over heels growth from that perspective, which is huge. But, when you think 300 to 400 people, those people, unbelievable supporters for us. I don't care how much you give. But, that's still 300 to 400 people in this gigantic community. Can you get 1 to 2 of your friends to get involved? And that's really the challenge. If you need an excuse, it's Thanksgiving and then Christmas and the holidays coming up, give somebody a donation to ASU football on behalf of them from you, right? Make that the excuse for why you donated again to your wife when she asks you, right? Tell her I got it for my buddy, right? Or something like that. But do something that's a little unique. Get somebody else involved. Let's sell this place out this week. Beautiful. 63.